and I'm going to give you a scary stories, okay?
Ahem.
The rain had been hammering against the old cabin for hours, a relentless, drumming static that drowned out the sounds of the deep woods. Leo sat alone on the edge of the mattress, watching the battery icon on his phone drop to 1%, then vanish into blackness.
He took a slow breath, trying to steady the tight knot in his chest. Outside, a branch scraped against the glass, a sharp fingernail sound that made him jump. It was just the storm, he told himself. Just an old house settling. Then, from the kitchen downstairs, he heard the distinct, heavy thud of a cabinet door swinging shut. Leo froze. His breathing stopped entirely. He was supposed to be miles from the nearest town, completely isolated. He waited, his ears straining against the ambient roar of the downpour. Creak! The sound came from the bottom of the wooden staircase. It was slow, deliberate, and followed by another. Someone was walking up, choosing each step with terrifying patience. Leo slid off the bed, his bare feet making no sound on the floorboards. He frantically scanned the dark room for a weapon or a hiding place, but the room was starkly bare. Defenseless, he slipped into the shallow closet, pulling the slatted door shut, until only a thin gap remained. He pressed his face against the wood, peering out into the bedroom. The bedroom door clicked. It swung inward, revealing a tall, gaunt silhouette, framed by the dim gray light of the hallway. The figure stood entirely still in the doorway, for what felt like an eternity, its head tilting slightly from side to side, as if sniffing the air. Slowly, the stranger began to move around the room. Leo watched in silent horror as the figure approached the empty bed, reaching out with a pale, unnaturally long hand to feel beneath the blanket. Finding nothing, the entity turned its attention to the rest of the space. It stepped closer to the closet. Leo clamped both hands over his mouth, biting down on his own knuckles to stifle his ragged breathing. His heart hammered so violently against his ribs he was certain the intruder could hear it. Through the narrow slats of the door, he could now see the details of the face just inches away. The eyes were wide, glassy, and completely bloodshot, staring unblinkingly ahead. As the mouth that made Leo's blood turn to Issa wide. Jagged smile that stretched far too wide across the pale cheeks, static and frozen. The entity stopped right in front of the closet door. It didn't open it. Instead, it leaned forward until its forehead pressed flat against the wood, right where Leo was looking out. For a long, agonizing minute, nothing happened. The static roar of the rain outside seemed to fade into a deafening silence. Leo held his breath, his eyes watering from the strain. Staring directly into the glossy, unmoving eyes of the thing on the other side of the wood. Then, the creature's smile twitched, stretching even wider. It didn't reach for the doorknob. Slowly, it lowered its head, pressed its mouth against the gap between the door slats, and whispered into the darkness of the closet. I can smell you breathing.